Welcome to Zimmerman Podcast, episode 86. Today is the last episode of a 3-part mini-series where I've interviewed real Zimmerman students who took my course, Know Your Numbers, Annual Planning for Your Best Year. Today, I'm interviewing Jessica Broughman of Pearl Events. Jessica has used my course, Know Your Numbers, to create sales goals for her business, foster a goal-focused mindset, and implement a financial plan for her family that has given her flexibility and peace of mind through an unpredictable 2020. Jessica is like so many Zimmerman listeners who are already doing okay on their own when it comes to finances, business, and personal goal setting. But Jessica wanted more from her 2020. And despite, everything, she's found it thanks to the hard work she's been doing with Know Your Numbers. I can't wait for you to hear Jessica's story. All right, you ready? Let's do it. I'm Jessica Zimmerman, and this is Zimmerman Podcast. I'm a serial entrepreneur, mom to 3, and professional oversharer who has spent a decade building my business and helping others do the same. From wedding floral design to business education, features in Martha Stewart Weddings and Forbes magazine, and even writing and publishing my best-selling memoir, Sleeping with a Stranger, my business has kept growing, evolving, and changing year after year, just like me. Because the best thing about building a strong business is the freedom it gives me to live a full life. And that's what Zimmerman Podcast is all about, sharing real, transparent, in-the-moment reflections about how to live a life, build a business, and lead a family through the good, the hard, and the messy. That's what we're doing each week, right here on Zimmerman Podcast. Welcome to the show. Hi, Jessica. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Jessica. I'm so happy to be here talking with you today.
I'm so excited. So you have been a Zimmerman student for a while. You were in my masterclass and everything. I just love talking to you. You're such just a bright spot. I love it. There's, a few students that you can just pick out, and you're like, oh, I love her smile. I love everything about her. Before we dive in, tell everyone kind of how you first got started with Zimmerman education.
I'm a wedding planner, and I basically was just doing it as a side hobby. I'd always wanted to do it. I'd been in business for about 2 years, and I was just kind of lost really how to grow my business. And I came across BBB, Business Behind the Blooms, your other course. And once I purchased that course, you were just so raw and open and honest that it really opened my eyes. And I was able to take my business from, fun hobby to something I really was passionate about growing into a successful business. I just really loved, reading through it. You gave so much information, and all of your stories made it very relatable. It was awesome. I really loved it.
Thank you for saying that. I had to make a video this morning for something, and someone asked me, they said, "Oh, you're an educator." And I said, "Well, I don't really love that term." I was like, I don't label myself as an educator. It might say that on my website, but I don't think of myself that way. I didn't love school. I didn't always, I didn't always love the teachers, even though today, obviously, I have tremendous respect for them, but I just didn't enjoy learning something unless I was really interested in it. I just consider myself someone who experiences something and then is willing to share it, the good, the bad, the ugly. And so I'm glad that resonated with you through Business Behind the Blooms. And then what's interesting, and I think you've been a student of Business Behind the Blooms for long enough to where you probably were involved with it before I even came out with Know Your Numbers. What ended up happening was with Know Your Numbers, it was just something that I did. And I had students who would say, how are you annually planning? Like, how do you figure out your sales goal? How do you do that? And so I just decided to share exactly what it is that I do. And I choose 1 month out of the year to do this, and I redo it every single year. So that program is called Know Your Numbers, but it's basically called Know Your Numbers because I don't know, it's impossible to put, I believe, what it all is in one title. I love it. I talked to Bree Carroll last week, and she said it should be named My Wealth My Way. And I thought, "Oh, that is a good name." I was like, "Man, we got to change it." But what would you call Know Your Numbers if you had to give it a name? Or what do you really think it's about? You don't have to come up with a catchy name, but, like, what would you tell someone that this program is all about?
Yeah, I feel like I would call it something along those lines. I mean, I would definitely say it should be like, get your life and your business together or something. It really just
Mhm.
woke me up. And I was a BBB student before you started doing Know Your Numbers. And when you started telling us about it, it was just like, wow, I love how she does the annual planning, but it really became so much more than that once I started taking the Know Your Numbers course and started doing the planning with you. It, especially for us personally, it wasn't just about the business. There was so much we took out of it for our personal lives and our personal finances as well, that I would just definitely call it something like, just it kind of shakes you, wakes you up, makes you see, how much better you can make your life just from a simple course that wasn't really, it's simple in concept, but what it gives you is so much more than that.
Right. Oh gosh, I wish there was a way to, like, yeah, market a feeling
Yes,
because
exactly.
know your numbers isn't necessarily, like, the most exciting thing that makes you just wanna jump up and down and be like, "Yes," but I think that the feeling that know your numbers gives you is really empowering, it's really freeing, and you mentioned the module where we talk about personal finances. Can you kinda share with me your experience with that? Like, were there some major moments where you were like, "Oh my goodness, I had no idea," or was it good for you to sit down with your partner and do it together? Like, how did that, all work for you? How did that shake out?
Yeah, personal finance is a big part of our story because it's really an issue my husband and I didn't really see as an issue. We've always been fairly, good with our money and good with our credit, but it wasn't until we took that course. And a large part of that section of the course is to sit down and go through all of your bank statements and your credit card statements and everything for the prior year, which, number one, I never would have done that before because it was terrifying. But
Which also sounds
actually,
way more, let me just say, it sounds way more, exhausting than it actually is. Like, it really isn't that that bad when you do it. You just have to take it's just taking the time to do it and getting through it. Man, it's eye-opening.
it felt laborious when you told us we had to do that. But then once we sat down and did it, especially the first time, it took a little longer probably, but each year we do it now. And because I think this is the third year I've done Know Your Numbers, and it gets easier. But it really opened our eyes to kind of see over, first of all, our overall debt between, credit cards and our car and our student loans, but then also where our money was going every month. We had budgeted for bills, but it was the money beyond that. We always felt like, we didn't have enough to save, is kind of the mindset we had. But once we sat down and really broke things out and planned ahead also for business expenses and personal expenses we knew we were going to have throughout the year, um, it just opened our eyes. And we really, one of our goals was to hone in on paying debt off as fast as we could and trying to, start setting more money aside than we had been saving. And we really ran with it. And the first year we were able to save or pay off, I think, $26,000 in debt. And
Wow.
then that actually motivated us. We ended up selling our house, which we loved, because the market was high, and we
Mhm.
took that money and, paid off more debt and put money in savings and really set our family up. We just took the opportunity to kind of set our family up. We have a young family. Our kids are 5 and 2, to set ourselves up for success. And we feel like now, we have so many tools to make better financial decisions. We thought we knew what we were doing before. And, for our age, I'm only 31. My husband and I have done pretty well managing our finances, but until we took this class, it was just so eye opening. It really changed our lives, in the personal aspect as well as my business, but especially personally.
Yeah, and I think, first of all, I love that. That makes me so happy. Like, honestly, it brings the biggest smile to my face more than anything else hearing this, because it's like, man, if that's all this program ever does for anyone is allow you and your husband to pay off $26,000 in debt and set yourself up, like, I mean, that's incredible, and you did that in a year, like, that's insane. I'm so excited for you, and I it's what I think is really magical about this program that I feel like anyone I talk to who goes through it, what they end up saying to me is they say, just kind of what you said about, man, I just didn't think there was extra money. Like, I just thought we get the money and it's spent, it's got its designated place and it's gone, and people really felt like strapped, like they didn't have that freedom. They felt like they were going paycheck to paycheck. But what this program does, once you actually know your numbers, we find we find your money. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
there. I promise your money is there, and you then get to see, oh my gosh, okay, here's my money. Now let me, instead of everyone else telling me where my money has to go, now let me get in the driver's seat. Let me decide where I want to put it. And I understand that people still have obligations. I still do too. We still have, you have a mortgage, or maybe you have student debt, or maybe you have a business loan. I'm not saying you get to choose not to do those, but we get to find where your money is and put it where it needs to go, rather than the money telling you where it's going to go. I don't know. It's so freeing and empowering, and that's what I love is so many people find that out and they go, "Oh my gosh, like I didn't know I had this extra money." And yeah, it's incredible. I found out that I'd spent like $700 at Sonic
Oh
on,
gosh.
you know, like vanilla Cokes. I don't even that made me not ever want a Coke again. I haven't had a soda in like since then, in years, but I was just like sick at my stomach when I found out how much I'd spent on Coke. And it was just kind of that daily little like, "Oh, I need this little pick me up." It's just $1 something, you know? I mean, it's nothing, and it adds up. It adds up.
Oh
So I
yeah.
think that that's really freeing. So what was kind of um an eye-opening experience for you? Did you have something like that you were just like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it?"
Definitely looking, going back and looking at our money, and then through that course, you also talk a lot about goals and kind of setting those goals up. So that was big for us. But I would say the biggest moment was really at the end of the following year. So, my first year through New Year numbers, and then at the end, doing that initial year end review. And looking back at how I'm getting chills just talking about it, looking back at how far we had come. We went from a place of feeling like, we had a couple $100 at the end of the month, and we, throw it here, throw it there. We didn't blow a lot of money, but just to be able to go from that. And once we kind of started seeing a little progress, we just, went even faster and faster, and seeing it at the end of the year, not only the amount of money, but just like we felt like we were a stronger team. We felt like we were going to be able to be better parents for our kids, because not only had we done this together, but it also, taught us a lot that we can teach them. Just looking back through our goal sheet and seeing, the goals that we had met, and also kind of reflecting a little bit on, what we wanted to do differently in the next year. I think that just that yearly recap at the end was also so beneficial for us, as much as the course was in the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. And I love what you said earlier about, you know, you and your husband, y'all didn't it's not y'all felt like you had a pretty good grasp on money. Like, it's not, I don't think any of us go into this life, just frivolously wanting to spend everything and feeling wasteful. I know for Brian and me, I mean, I very rarely buy anything for myself. Brian so rarely buys anything for himself. Like, I have to twist his arm to get him to buy anything. And we don't really frivolously spend. And so that's what's sometimes frustrating is when you're like, man, I work really hard and I don't ever buy anything. And so then you just kind of go through life, whether you realize it or not, just a little bit bitter or angry or frustrated or just like, "Ugh, is this all it is? Is this what my life is? It's just gonna be working to make money that just automatically leaves." And I love that this program can open those eyes for people and go, "Oh, no, it does not have to be that way. I promise you it does not." And one of the biggest eye openers for me, and I talk about this in Sleeping with a Stranger, my book, about how we had built this house that I loved, and then we got an offer on it. I did that because I knew what that could do to my net worth. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I
yeah.
ended up selling it because I went, "Okay." And I thought, and let me just tell you, had it been 5 years before that, I wouldn't have even thought I would have been like, "No, this is my house. I'm not selling this. Like, I love this house. I'm not selling it." But it's because I knew my numbers that I made a really smart decision. If you want to build a great business or live a good life, you've got to plan for it. Every year, I take a whole month to reevaluate the past 12 months and figure out what worked, what didn't, and how I can create a life I love for the following year. I teach you my exact planning process in my program, Know Your Numbers, annual planning for your best year. If you want a free training to get some tips on planning your best year yet, go to zimmermanpodcast.com/know your numbers. That's zimmermanpodcast.com/know your numbers. So in Know Your Numbers, we only look at, a year at a time. I think it's overwhelming to be like, here's my 10-year plan. Obviously, when you were going through the program, and you've done it, this will now be your third year. But how do you feel like it prepared you for what we're going through now, or and I'm talking about, COVID and everything, but even in the future, like when something hits or something happens, maybe your air conditioner goes out and a new unit is going to cost $10,000 or something. You know what I mean? Like how do you feel like Know Your Numbers has prepared you for those kind of big hits?
I feel like I have a couple. I mean, it's prepared me in a couple different ways. The first one really being, eliminating that debt. I'm so thankful for, you know, having such a better grasp financially. I'm a pretty stressful person anyway, but I just always had a lot of like stress and fear over money. And even when we had some, worrying about what was going to come next. And I can't imagine how much more stress we would have been during this COVID situation had we had more, money worries or fear over that aspect. So for that, already being gone was amazing for us. Another lesson that you talk about in the course on the business aspect is, looking for different ways when you sit down, you actually go through your business projection for the coming year and what you want your financial goal to be, how much profit you want and things like that. There was a portion of that where you talked about thinking outside of the box, or, if you still need $3,000 to meet your goal for that quarter, how can you get that other than, just getting initial wedding bookings, or floral orders. And I think that was a very strong lesson for me to think, just because I'm a wedding planner and a floral designer doesn't mean I can't do, you know, prom bouquets this season. And even if I only do it this season, whatever I have to do to meet that goal, I can do, and nothing is permanent. And that's another thing that I love about the fact that you push us to do, just think about the year. I've always been a planner my whole life. I've always thought 5, 10, I feel like I have my whole life mapped out. Well, and once you get to that, life doesn't really work like that. So,
Right.
there's always something that changes or something that comes up. So I really loved that the focus is solely on what can we do for this year? How can we make the most out of this year? And then we can look back at the end and see what didn't work and change that. And I think that's really one of the biggest takeaways from Know Your Numbers, is to just kind of get that mindset. I love when you always say, I can do anything for a year. And I never would have said that in my whole life before, I started taking courses from you. And now I really feel like I have that mindset. And I feel like that's brought me a lot of peace, um, and balance in my life too.
Yeah. I can't remember where I first said that. It was something, oh, I know. It was when Brian and I, we were going to build that house, that dream house. And this is where I come into this place of like, you can have anything, but you can't have everything. And that's why I like to look at things, one year at a time. And to me, it was like, how can we build this house of our dreams? which, by the way, y'all have to, like, just go get Sleeping with a Stranger to find out how I mean, I just told you that we end up selling it, but I mean, it was the house of my dreams, and now I could, like, care less. I'm just like, I don't even I mean, let's just travel, let's do something else, I don't know. But at the time, I was like, "Okay, in order to do this, we could live with my parents for a year." But that's just a year. Like, we can do anything for a year, and if we live with them for a year and save, then we can have this house. And so it just made sense to me, and I don't know, I just came from that place of you can't have both. You can't stay in this house that you both that just the 2 of you live in and build this dream house. You can't have everything. But what do you want? Do you want would you rather stay in this house or would you rather build the dream house? Well, okay, if you wanna build the dream house, then you need to, go live with your parents for a year and save money and figure it out. And I just think that that is such a lesson that I have taken with me throughout the remaining, the rest of my life, and I will continue to take with me. So you can do anything for a year. You really can. We can do
Mhm.
anything for a year.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I love that you took that too. How did Know Your Numbers help change your mentality of focusing more on who you're becoming and less on what you're doing? Because I know for me, that first module I think somebody could maybe get in there and go, What are we doing? I wanted to learn about money." But that first module is so important. What was that like for you? And did that help you kind of change your mentality about what to focus on?
Yeah, the first module is really key. When you first look at it, you're like, okay, Jessica, come on, what are we getting into here? I remember you saying, what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. So if you just kind of answer those personal questions without really giving it a lot of thought, you might think that it's, kind of surface and not going to help you. But the personal goals just played a big part in focus for me, I guess. I've always been, I'm like a type A, classic check off the list, next task kind of a person. And I never really took time to sit down and reflect on what was important or how I could change my own life, which is kind of silly, you know what I mean? To be a planner, and you would think that I would do that more often, but self-care just hadn't been quite a priority to me as much.
Plus, we're just kind of conditioned as we grow up. Sorry to interrupt you, but to just here's what's next, and then you do this, and then here's what's next, and then you do this, and it's like we never really take the time to go unless somebody kind of shakes us or we have some kind of breakdown to where we go, oh wait, I can actually make some of these decisions myself. What do I really want?
Oh yeah, and I feel like I've definitely been the type of person that has always I've done what I thought was expected of me and what I thought people, thought was good for me. And I
Yep.
think sitting down and actually answering those questions on paper and really taking the time to think about what is important to me, time with my family is, similar. I guess that's why, we bond so well, but
Yeah,
time
yeah.
with my family is my most important thing. I love my kids. I love my husband. So I needed to find a way to do that and have more of that time. And that was one thing I loved about that personal goals section was just actually sitting down and figuring out how do I want to spend my time? And then also taking the time to put it in my planner and set that side of time and map it out because I can write down on paper that I want to do it all day long, but
Right.
actually having it in my planner and planning that time out made it a lot more successful throughout the year to actually be able to do those things that I wanted to focus on. So I feel like it just gave me a lot of balance, made me a lot happier. It made me realize that I didn't just have to check things off the to do list, that I could focus on what I wanted. And by the time you get to the end of the year, you know, you kind of look back and you can see how those things played such a big part in achieving, the goals that you have for your business or in other aspects of, the goal section on the course. So,
Right, right. And don't you think I mean, I feel like even people who don't have businesses could really benefit from this. I mean, the business section is one module. I think if you don't have a business and you're listening to this and you want to really live the life that you want, I mean, that really is what this program is about. It's about because I said it before, I'll say it again. people like to say all the time, "Money isn't everything. Money," we gotta have money. Like, we have to we have to have money, and so we need to have a good relationship with it. And so if we have a good relationship with it and we feel in control of it, then we are gonna it's gonna be better. And I think that, that is a lesson for people who own their own businesses and certainly for people who don't. I mean, it's for everyone.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
I think that, yeah, this program is for anyone who, kind of wants to do that check-in on themselves and go, "Am I living the life I wanna live, and what does that look like?" And yeah.
1000%. And I feel like too, it's really good for anyone of any age. It's something that I wish they would teach more in school, like junior, senior year. But it's also good for someone in their 20s who's trying to figure things out, or someone maybe who's in, their 30s or their 40s that wants a career change or isn't happy with, how their life has kind of, gone thus far. I feel like it really applies to anybody, even if it doesn't apply for that one section of business. There's just so much you get out of it about money and about overall just like how to balance your life and how to realize what your priorities are and goal, planning. There's just so much. I can't even say enough good things about how much content is in the course that you get out of it.
Thank you so much. I just love hearing your experience with it and everything. I love that you go through it with your husband and how you're probably like me, and we will do this program with our children as well. They will know these things. I agree with you. I wish
Yes.
schools would teach this stuff. You said this will be your third year to do Know Your Numbers. What are you most excited about revisiting it this year?
Well, this year, my husband and I always do like the only portion he doesn't do with me is the business part, just because, I have my own grasp on that. And he's such a gracious husband that, he's very supportive and is like, whatever you want to do, babe, I'll support you. So that's great. We are excited. Our oldest son well, he's almost 6. And we're definitely going to incorporate him with like goal planning and stuff, not only for him, but like kind of to try to focus on being more of like a family unit and making some of those goals and those decisions together just to kind of get him excited about things too. I think it's easier with kids when you are budgeting or you are like, trying to save for like a vacation to Disney or something like that to kind of get them excited about it. Then I don't feel as bad when I have to say, well, no, we're not going to eat out tonight,
Right.
only once a week because we're trying to save for our goal for Disney. Instead of just always saying no to them, we're kind of like incorporating him in why we're doing it. And I think that's going to be pretty powerful for him too. Our youngest son's a little too young for that, but eventually we will, incorporate him into it as well.
Running a floral business isn't always as pretty as the flowers themselves. I spent more than $100,000 educating myself and figuring out how to make this business work for me and fully support my family of 5. If you're wanting to know how to not only run a profitable business, but also hear all my firsthand experiences of navigating how to deal with difficult brides, make automated systems, create proposals, set boundaries in your work, and book every bride you want, you need to check out Business Behind the Blooms. Go to zimmermanpodcast.com/BBB to get more information. That's zimmermanpodcast.com/BBB. I remember I used to work at a kitchen store. I was a manager and buyer there. And my boss, the owner, his name was Mike. He's no longer with us, but he taught me so many just amazing things that I just still take with me to this day. And one of them was I remember him telling me when he was taking his kids on a vacation and they were, elementary school age. And he got out a piece of poster board or something and he showed them, okay, this is how much money we have, and just made it like almost like a lesson. Like it wasn't like a shameful, we only have this much money or don't talk about money or it was just like, okay, in order to go on this trip, we have this much money. This much we're going to spend in gas and in the car, and this much we're going to, whatever. And he basically said, now if all of us order a soda for, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or orange juice or milk or whatever at breakfast, because there were 5 people in their family. This is how much money we're gonna spend this week just on drinks. Isn't that a lot of money? And they were all like, "Yeah." And he said, "If all 5 of us chose to drink water, we could take that money and we could go," and it was like, I don't know, to the aquarium or, something like that. And just how they just got it. You know what I mean? They were like, "Oh, well, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, water. Water, we wanna go to the aquarium." And I thought, "What a smart man."
Oh,
Like,
yeah, I love
you
that.
know? I just loved it, and I think that has stuck with me since he said that, of just, man, I want to be able to teach my children in a very honest, just a real way, not like a shameful way. I feel like there's so much shame put around money, and there shouldn't be. It should really be, empowering, and we should be able to speak freely about it. What is one way that you feel like you have changed since going through Know Your Numbers?
Probably the biggest thing that's changed about me, other than my, just overall mindset, is I focus a lot less, and you'll be proud because this is something you teach us in all of your courses really, but just less focus on the noise, like on social media for business and personal, and less on like social expectations for my own success. I feel like I compare so much less because I have my goals sheet and my action steps. That's the biggest thing that I not the biggest thing. It's one of the things I love about the course is not only do you teach us how to set goals, but you also teach us, how to then break that down into action steps and break it down into small pieces so it's achievable, and that I just feel so much more confident in my business and in our personal life. But especially with business, I don't feel the need to compare myself to other wedding planners or floral designers in my area, and what they're doing. I feel confident that what I have planned is going to help me meet my financial goals, and that makes me feel successful in my business.
Good for you. Oh, good for you. That makes me so happy. So we definitely have, like our annual goal and everything. There, I believe it's module 5 where we kind of go into the goal setting and the how we actually make those dreams come true. Like there's one thing to say, I wish, I wish. There's
Hmm.
another thing to go, okay, this is what I want to do and here's how we're going to do it. But I also give you, monthly kind of homework. Here's what you need to do in January. Here's what you need to do in February to keep you on track. Do you do those, and have they been helpful?
Oh, yes. They are. That's probably the thing that helps you stay on track the most, is having that monthly check in with yourself. And it's quick. At first, it might seem like to somebody that, oh my gosh, I have to do this every month or I have to do this every quarter. But it's just like a quick check in. You put it in your planner, you know how to do it every month. You could kind of see where you're at. And I think it's especially beneficial because, if you get to May and you're not even halfway to your goal financially, or if it's not a financial goal, you can kind of check yourself and be like, you're not, rolling around to November when you do your year end one and being like, oh well, didn't do what I wanted to do. You have that monthly kind of check in to see where you're at, and I think that that's really beneficial to stay on track and then make adjustments if you need to.
What would you say to someone who's on the fence about buying Know Your Numbers?
Do it. I feel like there's so many courses out there, and we've all taken them in the past that they advertise that you're going to get a lot of things out of it, and then once you take the course, you feel like there's something missing.
Mm.
But I've never felt that with any of your courses, but especially with Know Your Numbers, I feel like because you get so much out of it on just like a personal level, in addition to business, that there's so much to take away from it that you're going to get 1,000 times your money worth just from doing the course. Once you do it, you will look back at the next year and just be blown away with how far you've come, and do the work. When you purchase the course, do it, really get deep in it, and I think it'll change your life.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I just feel like, again, I hope it is done in a way that is really, encouraging and uplifting and not shameful at all. And just like, hey, here's my mistakes and don't worry. And we've got this. And which makes it a safe place, because I think people can feel really vulnerable with their finances, and I want them to feel safe, and know that we just have to learn it. It's not our fault that we didn't learn it as a junior in high school. It's not our fault.
Yeah.
And so, but now, when we know better, we do better. And
Mhm.
so we know better. So it's time to do better. Okay. So I usually ask people at the end of this, of every podcast, that Oprah question. I love the Oprah
Oh, I
question,
love the
but
Oprah question.
oh, do you want to answer the Oprah question? I could ask you the Oprah question. You want
Good.
that one?
Sure, sure.
I'm gonna give you both. Okay, so we'll start with this one and then I'll do Oprah. Okay,
Okay.
so as you're getting ready to work through Know Your Numbers for 2021, what's one thing that you really want to do in 2021? And what's, something that you hope to incorporate into your daily routine that you think is going to be, the most life-changing for you?
The most life-changing I've really seen through taking this course how beneficial manifesting is, and some people may or may not believe in that.
Oh, it is
Um,
a thing, Jessica. It
but
is a thing.
and I was kind of skeptical, before I took this course, but actually, the vision board especially, I put it on my laptop and everything.
Doesn't that vision board story just get you every time? It gets me
Every
every time.
time.
And I have to
Every
watch
time.
myself. I just have to pretend that it's someone else. I do. I just have to pretend it's like some character. But every time I hear it, I'm like, "Yes, that story is incredible."
It really does, and I'm like, every year, I sit down with that vision board at the end of the year, and I dream big on that thing, and I
Yes,
sit down at the end of the year, and I'm like, "Holy crap, I never would have thought that,
right.
I could achieve this," and I did it, and not I didn't just do one thing, I either get half of it or 3/4. I've never gotten all of it, but we'll get there, but so really just incorporating, like, just some daily time to meditate and kinda manifest, you know, my dreams. I think taking that time for myself every day is just going to make it that much better.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's so good. Okay, so here's your final question. So, if you had Oprah's money, so billions of dollars, like money's not a problem, and you had to spend it on something totally selfish just for yourself, what would it be?
A personal chef.
Oh, so
Because
good.
again,
Yes.
I don't mind cooking, but just my time, I'm like you, is very valuable. And I'm
Yes.
like, if I could just have somebody cook for me every day, it would always be good. And I don't have to worry about it. It would just be
Yes.
fabulous.
I
Fabulous.
I mean, I hate that question, "What's for dinner? What do you want for
Oh,
dinner?" It's so
it
annoying.
is. It is.
I love that. I love that answer. That is good. Well, thank you so much, Jessica, for coming on here and just sharing your heart and your experience with Know Your Numbers. Like I said, you have been and continue to be one of my favorite students. I know we will keep hanging out for a long time to come.
Oh,
So this
definitely.
will be good.
Thank you for
Okay, so
having me.
you're so welcome. Tell everybody where they can find you.
So you can find me on Instagram at Pearl Events VA or pearlevents.com. And that's about all.
Okay, perfect. That sounds good. Okay, thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Jessica, thank you so much for sharing your Know Your Numbers story. One of my favorite things Jessica said is that things really changed when she quieted the noise of the people around her and instead focused on her own dreams and goals. When you're focused on what you really want, instead of just competing with people you follow on social media, racing to a finish line at the end of a trail you don't even want to be on, you can truly find freedom. If you want to check out the program that has helped Jessica find this freedom, I have good news for you. I have a free class that teaches you how to live, love, and fund your dreams. Go to the link in today's show notes to sign up for this free class. And I'll see you back here next week, right here on Zimmerman Podcast.